The Denver Broncos locker room was interesting today. Let's get into all that and more on Orange and Blue Today, presented by Champ Honda. Oh, that's right. I am Cecil Lammey. I'm here to talk about the Denver Broncos. A short week. Good thing we can flush away the last game against the Jets and we can move on. Oh, God, it's Kansas City. But there's a lot to get to. And it's interesting to note how the NFL has changed in a very short amount of time. And the Broncos aren't up to the times. And I'm talking about Vance Joseph defense because it's awful. And, well, Vance Joseph doesn't deserve his job as a defense coordinator. I don't know if that hurts anybody's feelings or I don't know if that's not nice, but I'm not here to be nice. I'm here to tell you the truth. Seek the truth and speak the truth. Isn't that right, Matthew? That's right. Orange and Blue Today, presented by Champ Honda. I'm also talking about Sean Payton's offense not being up to with the times, because what you see now in today's game, and there's plenty of study on this if you go to YouTube or whatever, and don't watch necessarily the highlights on YouTube. But if you watch any sort of film breakdown, like a JT O'Sullivan, who does a great job on quarterback school, right? It's quarterback school. Let's go. So you see a lot of great people that break down film. I myself watch every game twice each week in the NFL, and that's for every team. And I chart plays. I'm basically looking at down and distance and tendencies, route combinations, etc. And I wanted to start today's program, and I talked to Pat Surtain about this. I asked him about motion and shifts. Have to slow down, make sure I can pronounce that correctly. Motion and shifts have created problems for defenses in today's NFL. Everyone's doing the Fangio 6, okay? So that's kind of proliferated throughout the league. The Fangio 6 or quarters concepts are in this league. And what you're seeing now, besides split field concepts defensively, you're seeing teams respond with motions and shifts because it's the ultimate tell. And with the speed of these players, Miami Dolphins lead the league right now, motioning or shifting on 59% of the snaps. Now they're leading the league, but the league average is creeping up towards 50% of the time. There is a motion or a shift by the offense. I'm going to break that down. And it's something I had to talk to Pat Surtain about today, because as a defender, you're left kind of on an island, literally by yourself, because the plans that you have no longer work. Banjo doesn't work. That's coming up next. And that isn't Chris Banjo. I know people like, you mean Chris Banjo? No. Banjo, the concept doesn't work. I'll explain that in a little bit. So not only did I ask Pat Surtain about this today, and it's something that as the week goes on, Wednesday's show, Mason and I are going to talk about it. Thursday, we'll do a little pregame. Friday, it'll be me reacting to the game. But as we look at the implementation of motion, just how much it's become commonplace in today's game, I wanted to alert you guys and ladies that in 2017, the amount of motion and shifts, I believe motion was 4%, shifts was a little bit more. So like less than 10% of snaps had motions or shifts. And that was 5 years ago. 6 seasons, 5 years, whatever the number is. Don't make me do math. Matthew, you got a calculator. You're on top of that. But like in just that brief amount of time, the game has changed because of motion and shifts. And the Miami Dolphins are using it to perfection. Who is a team that is much like the Miami Dolphins? Well, the Kansas City Chiefs. So I talked to Pat Surtain about it. And then Justin Simmons, unprompted, as I'm standing next to Justin holding the microphone today in the locker room, Justin Simmons, unprompted, brought up the role of motion. And what is the key for the Broncos to fix this defense? I've got some more ideas, but I wanted to tell you how motion and shifts and what teams are doing. Now, not to get too technical, although I could, and I think it would be a fun show. I have always been coached that, numbers are boring. People get bored by numbers. And if you get too, above the head of, back in the day when I used to talk about targets, I remember this like 20 years ago, and people would be like, what's a target? Well, it's how many times they're thrown at. Now everybody knows targets. When I used to talk about 12 personnel, I remember Peyton Manning quizzing me at a press conference, like, what's 12 personnel? I said, well, it's one running back and 2 tight ends. He goes, we call that Dallas. So everyone has a different term for it. But now 12 personnel, I think there's a lot of fans out there that are, 12, 11 personnel, 13 personnel, 22 personnel. It's always 5 skill position players assumed. And then it's the number of running backs and the number of tight ends. So 12 is 1 and 2 tight ends. So anyway, not to get too deep in the weeds in terms of that, because again, I think there's a thirst for that out there, but I also know that people will be like, what is that? What does a joker mean? What does a rover mean? All these sorts of things. But when a team is motioning, it's football 101. You're going to tell if a defense is in man or zone. So you motion, is it man or zone? And the quarterback knows immediately where to go with the ball. If it's zone, if it's any sort of, Fangio 6, knows where to go with the ball. And even though the league has adopted that Fangio 6 defense and quarters concepts, I mean, offenses have just reacted to that. Okay, we know what you're trying to take away. You're trying to make us take some short stuff, find the soft spot in the zone. Can your quarterback find it before the pressure? Well, we're just going to motion and make you tell on yourself. And that's what these motions and shifts do. And this is why personnel groupings, I've always called the NFL is beautiful, man. Every time I go solo, I either go professional wrestler, it doesn't matter, or I go Snowball from Clerks, which I probably shouldn't do. That's for a different show. But like, it's beautiful because this game I've often called the declaration of influence. And if you're going to line up in 2 tight end sets, and let's say it's even 2 running backs, let's say it's 22 personnel, that's a run heavy formation. So you line up, you're in an I formation. The 49ers do this also to perfection. Thank you, Kyle Shanahan, and thank you, Mike McDaniel, because you're taking Mike Shanahan's offense and you're just hitting everyone in the league over the head with it. It's awesome. So you influence the defense. You declare and you influence, because if you're in heavy personnel, let's say it's 22, if you're in heavy personnel, the defense is going to react by being, we're going to stay in base. They're going to go heavy nickel. They're going to go base, whatever. You're running the ball. You are declaring that you're running the ball. Now, all of a sudden, you motion. And look what the 49ers do, like with a Kyle Juszczyk. He's a fullback, everybody. And I know mainly he's like a tight end, but he's FB's by his name. And that's just not for football, baby. That's fullback. So, like, you'll motion him out wide with Christian McCaffrey. Or Mitchell. They got their Elijah Mitchell. They can do that as well. Now, Christian McCaffrey's a slot receiver, or he's a wide receiver, or, and Juszczyk, he's motion out, he's wide. And you can throw it to him because he can catch. Because these running backs, this positionless football, it's almost like some NBA concepts have taken over in the NFL, these positionless players, just chess pieces basically for your team. So no longer are your tight ends merely God bless an Orson Mobley or something like Clarence. Where's Clarence K at? I'm old Broncos tight ends. Who else could I come up with old Broncos tight ends? But anyway, no longer are they, just the primary blockers, extra tackles. These guys are weapons. These guys are receivers. Greg Dulcich practiced today. More on that when I go to Back in Action. That's coming up at the end of today's program. But I wanted to let you know how motion and shifts are really complicating things defensively. I wasn't able to talk to Josie Jewell today. Actually, didn't see Josie in the locker room. Didn't see Alex Singleton in the locker room. It was an interesting day. But I want to talk to all these defenders while I can, before everyone gets traded, about motions and shifts and how that influences. And Pat Surtain told me today in the Broncos locker room that it basically comes down to communication. And then when Justin Simmons talked about it, unprompted, by the way, because everyone's talking about motions and shifts, he brought it up saying, like, you can't do more than what you're tasked with doing. And when you have a motion and shift, you declare heavy, right? 22 personnel, 12 personnel, you're declaring heavy. We're running the ball. Now you shift. Now you basically have a 5 wide look. You can shift from I formation, 22 personnel, to now 5 wide look. And defensively, you're screwed because you're in base or you're in heavy nickel. And now you're like, oh my, we weren't expecting this. And again, with these position versatile players, and the Broncos do have some of those guys, they need to use them more. Jaleel McLaughlin, they do have these players, not the traditional, and Samaje Perine not a terrible receiver out of the backfield, but he's more of a, outlet guy rather than a Texas route, break somebody's ankles, get open on anybody type of guy that I believe Jaleel McLaughlin could be. I'm wagging my finger. So motions and shifts have complicated things so much. And this Broncos defense, you saw the breakdowns against the Jets. And this is the Jets. And this is Nathaniel Hackett. Okay, if Nathaniel Hackett has implemented it into his offense, what does that mean for Sean Payton? What does that mean for Andy Reid, your opponent this week? You're going to be facing a team that motions and shifts only second to the Miami Dolphins. You better be ready. Because what did we hear after the Jets game? After the Jets game, we saw, well, they started moving guys around. They started using motion, and we weren't prepared. And what had happened is you get players that try to do too much when they just need to read their keys and stick with their run fits. But run fits changed based on the formation, and if they shift before the snap, they have a different formation and plan than what you're preparing for. And this is why years ago on air, because we all love Mark Schlereth. I think Matthew has a tattoo of him. But anyway, we love stink, love the green chili. Years ago when I first started on the air, I was like, this guy sucks, that guy sucks, this guy sucks. We got to commercial break and Stink leans over to me and he goes, hey, it's the league. Nobody sucks. And I was like, yeah, but Aaron Brooks sucks or whatever. So it's you just imagine that. The Broncos defense stinks, okay? I'm not making any excuses. I'm not a Vance Joseph apologist. I'm the guy that said after Miami he was going to get fired. Why wasn't he fired? Stop crying, everybody. Good teams would have fired him then. What does that say about what this team wants to do? Unless they're doing this on purpose. I'm not going to wear my tinfoil hat. I swear to God, I'm not going to put it on. But the only way this makes sense is if they're tanking on purpose. It's the only way, because I've never seen it look this. This is embarrassingly bad. But motions and shifts caused the Jets to be able to run wherever they wanted to on this Broncos defense. And this week, the topic of conversation in that locker room has been about motions and shifts. In those meeting rooms, it's been about staying disciplined. It used to be in a Mike Shanahan offense, which is glorious. And again, the concepts that are taking the league by storm are all Mike Shanahan concepts. And if you want to go further back, they're even Bill Walsh concepts. But it used to be the motion of the offensive line. Stink would tell you this, hey, you're going to move one way, break out in that cutback lane. Terrell Davis, you block it for 3, TD's getting you 5. You block it for 5, TD's getting you 30 to the house, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 yards to the house. That's how you did it with the zone blocking and wide zone concepts, where you're basically taking those concepts and putting them on steroids, no drug tests. But you're taking those concepts. And I was talking to James Palmer, and if you haven't noticed, how many names drops is this for this show? I had somebody one time was like, all you do is name drop. And I'm like, when I get a phone call from Peyton Manning, I'm going to tell you that, not to brag about it, but just because this is who the people I talk to. I haven't talked to Peyton in a while. I need to talk to him more because he's a great guy. But the point is this. What's my point? I talked to James Palmer in the locker room today and from NFL Network, and we were saying these are almost CFL concepts. Okay? In the CFL where you can really put that wide receiver, and as the snap goes, your wide receiver can already be going straight. Now in the NFL, your motion has to be laterally, and at the snap, you can go vertically. But they're already timing it so beautifully, and they're doing it. It used to be motion from one side to the other, and then you set, and then boom, run the play. Now it's motion, get just past the quarterback, snap the ball. Or it's motion and so there's the motion is at varying levels and degrees on the field. And now a defense doesn't know what to do because you're trying to do handoff coverage. I'm going to talk about Banjo in just a little bit. You're trying to do these coverages that used to work and they just don't work. Those concepts don't work. And that's in coverage. The focus in the conversation in the locker room today was a lot about the run defense because it's been bad. It's been terrible. There's no sugarcoating that whatsoever. These run fits, though, are corrupt because of motion and shifts. Now, you have to react to that. Again, I'm not making any excuses for Vance Joseph. He should have been fired. I don't know why he has a job. I don't want to be cruel. I'm not being cruel. Seek the truth and speak the truth. That's what I do on this show. And that's what Andrew Mason does on this show. It's Orange and Blue Today, presented by Sean Ponda. But I'm trying to explain to everyone how this league has fought against the Fangio 6, fought against cloud coverage, umbrella coverage, quarters coverage, deep coverage, and where okay, we're just going to dink and dunk all day. We can't take those deep shots. They're going to bracket us. And basically what you do is based on strong side or weak side of the field. You have a square of defenders on one side, 4. In the secondary, and you got your front 4. and then you have 3 on the other side. So you have 7 and 4, that's 11. So you got your front 4, you've got a square on the strong side, the widest side of the field. You've got a triangle of defenders on the weak side. Well, now with motion, you've only got the 3 defenders over there, right? We're going to motion at the last minute. You can't adjust fast enough. And it becomes a numbers game. There simply aren't enough players in that zone of the field to cover everybody. And now players get nervous. Players don't communicate. Pat Surtain told me today, because I asked him specifically, and we may play that audio for you tomorrow's show. Don't want to spoil it for you. Spoiler alert. Hashtag, put it on the screen, Matthew. Spoiler alert. But Pat Surtain told me it's all about communication. You've got to be talking to each other. You've got to know what to do. But these defenders, they think they've got it. Hey, we've got the perfect coverage for this play. And then you motion over and they're screwed. And that's why this game is so beautiful. There's such strategy in the NFL that when you watch coaches film and when you break down the tape, you see these things, beautiful poetry in motion that is football, the violence, the collisions, the deception, right? And the influence, the declaration of influence. You're basically trying to trick the defense and screw them over on every single play. And if you're a guy like Kyle Shanahan, you want to score a touchdown on every single play. And if you're a guy like Mike McDaniel, you want to score a touchdown as soon as you get the ball. And if you're a guy like Pat Shurmur, who's not in the league, thankfully, you want to get 3 yards. But this is where this league has changed. Is Vance Joseph up to this? Does he have modern concepts? No, not at all. Vic Fangio, even with this Fangio 6, he's doing the best he can against, because, Miami's had their troubles a little bit here and there, whatever. Buffalo, right? Again, think motion, think positionless football. Think of your players like a James Cook. I know Buffalo hasn't quite used him as the way they should, but think of these players. Your Christian McCaffrey, right? I don't know, what is he? Is he a slot? Is he a running back? What is he? He can do everything. And that creates complications. Kansas City, they don't have a number 1 receiver. Yeah, they all can do it. I'm going to go do it. Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, these guys. Watch out for Justin Ross this week. I don't want to be a doomsayer, but it doesn't matter. Again, there's professional wrestler. Is Travis Kelce going to play? It doesn't matter if Travis Kelce's going to play, because Noah Gray could have 100 yards against this defense, because Vance Joseph's concepts are not up to date. They're behind the times. Offensively, they're behind the times. Motions and shifts. Everybody's doing it. Is that Will Ferrell? Is that old school? When's he get the dart in the neck? What movie is that, Matthew? When he gets the dart in the neck, I like you, man, but you're crazy. No, it is old school, because he was going streaking when his wife catches him, and he's like, everybody's doing it. Yeah, everybody's doing motions and shifts, and it's why banjo doesn't work anymore. And again, I'm not talking about Chris Banjo. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about banjo handoff concepts. So you run crossers, you run rub routes. Defenders are taught, I'm going to take the inside guy. You're going to take the outside guy. I'm just going to hand off my guy. This is my guy. And if he crosses up, if you have any sort of rub routes, usually in the red zone, and Broncos red zone defense has been good. Jonathan Cooper talked about it today, about taking red zone concepts, and it's the Jets. Again, full disclosure. Hey, they held him to a bunch of field goals. It's the Jets. It's Zach Wilson, baby. Your red zone defense going to do that against Pat Mahomes? I don't think so. But banjo doesn't work anymore. Banjo does not work. So you have to figure out a way around that. And banjo is just handing off on rub routes. I've always got the inside guy. Even though I might have outside shade, I've always got the inside guy. This is my area, whatever. I'm going to follow my guy. You're going to follow your guy, or we're going to hand off. That's banjo. And it doesn't work anymore. So teams are using it almost to perfection. I know there've been, I think, what is it? Did Cortland have a penalty on a rub route? My memory is what happens when you get old. But the Broncos have been called for OPI or whatever on a rub route that didn't go their way in the end zone. Maybe Cortland caught it, and Brandon Johnson did the rub, I think, and didn't do it correctly. But either way, banjo doesn't work. So rub routes all day. And you've got to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs offense. You're not going to stop them. Okay? this pipe dream fantasy of like, they could beat the Chiefs and turn their season around. Stop. All right? You just don't want it to be ugly. You just don't. And I can't even believe I need to say this, but it is the truth. You don't want 70 points scored on you. If they get out of this game, if it's 35-20, I don't believe in moral victories, but that's a moral victory. Hey, guys, we held him to 40 today because Vance Joseph's concepts aren't current. They're not modern. There's no modern thinking, even on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think because I'm telling you, like, they tried to do the rub routes and then Brandon Johnson gets a flag, and I hope it was Brandon Johnson because I don't want to blame it. It was your fault. Like, but no. Like, there's these, and rub routes aren't even modern. But because banjo doesn't work, because of motion shifts. How many times do we see that for the Broncos? Now, I do have the advanced data, and I should have got the numbers before I cracked the show open. I apologize. Maybe it's something I'll write about at denversports.com. But how many times do we see motion and shifts for the Broncos? How many positionless players do they have? Like, Greg Dulcich was a big part of this team and their plan, and then he got hurt. And he's back today. I don't think he plays Thursday. More on that just a little bit. But like, because banjo doesn't work, handoff coverage doesn't work anymore, where's the Broncos' modern concepts? And not to get too deep, and I definitely don't want to insult the guy. I think someone on Twitter was like, you don't respect Sean Payton. Balderdash. I respect Sean Payton. I'm just sick of his hubris, and I would like a little bit of humility. You're not the smartest guy in the room. Okay? Don't act like that. And I'm not insulting him when I say this, so please don't anyone say, Cecil Lammey insulted Sean Payton. But there's a difference between intellect and intelligence. It's like street smarts and book smarts. Intellect, I think Sean Payton has intellect. Does he have intelligence and genere? Does he have the creativity? I'm not sure about that, and I never thought I would say that because Sean Payton had made it work. Throughout his NFL career. I don't care if he's bringing up Tony Romo or he's working with Kerry Collins or wherever he's been in his pro career. Wherever he's been. It's Drew Brees, but it's Jameis Winston, but it's over here, it's over there, it's Taysom Hill. Like, he's had some creativity. Where is it now? Unless they're tanking on purpose, this is incredibly odd. And I'm not going to blame him. I'm not going to accuse him of tanking. But I've watched a lot of football in my life. And I can't believe what I'm watching unless it's by design. You can't be this bad. Sean Payton, I believe, has intellect. I believe he has creativity. We haven't seen it. Where's the creativity? You don't have to simplify things so much for us. Maybe make the damn calls shorter, right? Worried about the cadence. Well, don't have these play calls that are X right, 22 jet motion, 34 Y, Z, X, Y, Taylor Swift, whatever. Like, I played six-man football, and I couldn't remember the plays like pop, pass, out. True story. And I was a quarterback, so I'd usually just get in the huddle, and by the time I got to the line of scrimmage, somewhere my Coach Hodson, I'm sorry. But I would get to the line of scrimmage, I'd get in our center, and I totally forgot what the play call is. I just said it in the huddle. I walked to the center, who's my best friend, Big E. Shout out Big E. Does it say something that my center in high school was my best friend? I don't know. You know, you get close in football. But anyway, like, by the time I got to the line of scrimmage, I wouldn't know what I called, and I'd just run something. So, again, Russell Wilson, you don't have to dumb this thing down so much that it doesn't look creative, and Russ looks like a robot. Russ can do more. Shorten the length of the play calls, get the play calls in faster, tighten it up, but Russ can do more. Where's the creativity in this offense? Where's the shifts and the motions? And don't think you can't do it. Don't think that you can't spark this offense with Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. While they're here, fire sale starts on Friday, everybody. They lose to the Chiefs. It's sell. Van Jefferson got dealt today, and I know it was just a seventh rounder, and you're not taking a seventh rounder for Jerry Jeudy, and you're not taking a seventh rounder for Courtland Sutton. But teams are beating you to the trade punch. There's only so many teams. I know Atlanta's not going anywhere necessarily. Sorry, Falcons fans. But like, they make the move for Vance Jefferson, and you're just sitting on your hands. Okay, come on, George Payton, do something. What's the meme of the guy with the stick figure with the stick, and he's like poking the whatever? It's like, Hey, George Payton, like, do something. Do something. Friday, you better be making phone calls. And I'm calling Dave Tepper in Carolina. I'm telling him how great he is and how smart he is, and he should get Jerry Jeudy. Come on, George Payton, do something. But where are these modern concepts? They don't exist. So did Sean Payton forget how to coach football? No. Are they doing this stuff on purpose? I don't know. But that's the only explanation, honestly. And I'm not accusing them of tanking on purpose. I've never thought that tanking could exist. But Sean Payton is on record talking to his buddy Colin Cowherd about how Caleb Williams is the type of quarterback that would force the NFL to get a lottery because you tank for that guy. He said it. I seen it. Like, he's already said it. Anyway, Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Ponda. Back in action, Javonte out on the field. And he looked fine last week, but maybe because of the 2 games in 4 days, they wanted to rest him last week. And they're not playing Jaleel McLaughlin enough. Hey, no Javonte, it's going to be a lot of Jaleel. What they do in practice, which I can't tell you, get time to get mad, comment section. What I can't tell you about practice is they do stuff that we don't ever see in the game. Sometimes we do, like the dumb Marvin Mims screen pass in the red zone. I've seen that a million times in practice. And then they tried it and, hey, it doesn't work, everybody. But there's stuff with Jaleel that they don't do yet. And I don't know why, like, they don't use him more. That's curious. Again, a lot of these things with this team this year are very, very suspect. I don't know. Greg Dulcich was out there today. I believe he'll be back next week because you have this extra 10 days off now. So I believe week 7 is when Greg Dulcich will return. And maybe that's when you see more shifts and motions and modern concepts because they're there and everybody's doing them. And even Pat Surtain told me today, it's a copycat league. Yeah. Unless you're Sean Payton. What are you copying? Because what it is trash. And I know the offense hasn't been that bad in every game. They certainly weren't good against the Jets. You're going up against the Chiefs. That's a physical, tough, aggressive defense. Want to get down your throat. That crowd's going to be in your ear. Like, everything's stacked against you. Can they do it? I'm going to go do it. Like, yeah, they can. It's like, what did C3PO say? Like, they're 4,720 to 1. Don't ever tell me the odds. So if Sean Payton can channel his inner Han Solo, the Broncos will be right on the money. Fly out of that meteor field and go. I don't know. Now I'm getting silly. Time to wrap up the show. Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Ponda. Andrew Mason will join me on tomorrow's program. Thursday, we'll do a little pre-game show, but Wednesday is all about what we talked about in the locker room, video clips from the players. You're going to love it. Marvin Mims, what does he say about bouncing back and playing against that KC tough physical secondary? They got some length too. Jalen Watson. If you've ever listened to me during the draft, you know I wanted Isaiah Pacheco, Jalen Watson. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of my favorites not playing for the Broncos because, hey, George Payton, everybody. Please do something. How about this? Please like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. It is Orange and Blue today, presented by Sean Ponda. I'm Cecil Lammey. From my man Matthew, the man in the chair. Stay tuned. And would you please, as always, how about you do this? Stay frosty.